Welcome back to another episode of Meta Talks. I'm excited today because this is a topic that people have asked about before, and we've really wanted to find some experts that are really building out something in this space because a lot of you have startups, you're founders, and you want to raise capital and you want to understand in this new Web3 space, how is that possible and how are people doing it today? So I'm really excited today because we have Brian Anderson and Kyle Kemper of Raze. That's Raze.Finance, RAZE. So welcome both.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
A true pleasure, Daniel and Kate. Let's get rolling. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit of background? How did you guys ended up creating Raze Capital?
Well, I'll take that one. So, Kyle and I have done some projects in the past together. Kyle is what you would call the kind of one of those OG blockchain guys. And I had done, we did a successful NFT project together, a couple of them. And I just kept having this idea about really being able to use NFTs, use blockchain for real business, because that's what I've always been a part of, is real software companies and real corporations and things like that, being able to startups, et cetera. I called Kyle and I was like, we need to figure out how to tokenize equity and revenue somehow. We've got to use NFTs for real world utility. And he was like, I love it. He's like, let's do it. And there started the long journey of building out a software platform to be able to actually do this, not only make it possible, but make it compliant here in the US, which was a key factor. I was like, this has to be compliant. We can't operate in a gray area. So Kyle's been an incredible contributor to the blockchain community for a long time. Brilliant guy, honored to work with him. We've got a whole incredible team behind us, actually, that I'm so honored to be a part of. But yeah, Kyle's been huge with helping us figure out how to design, architect, and evangelize.
Kyle, question for you. How does it feel like being the OG in the blockchain world? I mean, you're seeing the dip and the up and down, and I would love to hear that input of yours.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kate. I guess, gosh, it feels like forever. The very first Bitcoin I got, I sold a custom iPhone case for half a Bitcoin back in 2013. And, I put the first Bitcoin ATM in Ottawa, Canada. And I was the executive director and a board member of the Blockchain Association of Canada for 5 years, and have just been watching this space grow and evolve. And back in 2013, it was definitely like a lot of, the radicals and libertarians. And then we just saw this, this growth. And, I saw it from very, very early. Like, I deeply knew in my heart that, before Bitcoin, I was very pessimistic because, the state of the world, specifically with the central banks being in full control of the money, was a cancer on civilization. And Bitcoin represented the scalpel. As Andreas Antonopoulos said, it's like gunpowder. And so now, having just been in this industry for a long time, to witness it, it's like looking at almost like the family of all these friends who have been in it for so long and have done so many great things. And there's so much new energy coming in. And with Bitcoin, it was one thing. With the rise of cryptocurrencies and smart contracts and the ERC20 tokens, like really opened it up to new areas. Then with DeFi, all of a sudden, it's like the existing structures of finance were being challenged through decentralization. And then with NFTs, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is like bringing in a whole new swath of artists and collectors and creators. And then with DAOs, it's like, oh my goodness, again, it's like now we have this new foundation for the organizations of the future, and all of them needed to kind of come together. And now that they're all kind of here, we have a really robust underlying infrastructure on which we can build. And there's many projects that attempted to do tokenization of securities 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years, some of them even longer ago. But the market really wasn't ready, and it comes down to timing. But I just saw a study that said 10% of Canadians own cryptocurrency, and they said that was down a percent actually from last year. But the number of people who are really familiar with this, we're still in the early phase of the lifestyle, but it's very strong. So it feels great to be here.
That's awesome. Now I'm going to ask this question to you, Kyle. I was able to ask Charlie Shrim, who's your buddy in one of the OG in the blockchain world. Do you believe that a Bitcoin will be $1 million per coin?
I don't know. And honestly, like Bitcoin was never about becoming $1 million, and treating Bitcoin like it's just going to go up misses the great value of Bitcoin. This is an alternative financial system that is open and inclusive, and anybody can participate. And if we just hoard our Bitcoin like gold and don't use it, then we're missing out on the ability to just make the existing financial system kind of obsolete by utilizing this open permissionless network. So I think Bitcoin, I think it's got some upside, absolutely. And I think a lot of them do. But at the end of the day, I want to put capital to work. And that's why we've created Raze towards creating a tool and a platform and a service that helps other companies tokenize their securities, their equity, or their revenue into NFTs that can be sold utilizing crypto or fiat. In a very simple and expeditious manner to actually help us bridge towards that full DAO world, which is where we're going to get to, but we can't just jump there. That's not the way things work.
Absolutely. Dan?
Yeah, so I'm really curious on that. So with Raze, and I think we've seen that this last year, people unofficially raised money using tokenized options like NFTs. I think, as we know, laws in the U.S. and securities takes time to catch up. So how are you seeing, the future of raising money using security tokens and tokens? And can you simplify it for people as to exactly what you do?
Yeah, I would say it like this. What was really important for us is when we approached the problem of, instead of trying to replace everything that's currently there, which I think a lot of people make the mistake of doing, let's take what's there and let's improve it, even if it's just slightly improved, right? Let's take baby steps here. And we looked at the non-fungible token structure, right? NFTs. And we said there's so many benefits to being able to use an NFT versus a fungible token, which is how a lot of people have approached securities lately, tokenized securities. We said, how can we use an NFT? And what's really amazing is when you can simply use a different delivery system, which is the NFT, to do something better of what's already done, you can do amazing things. So for example, the simplicity of solving the payments and settlements process, right? Of using crypto. We all know the benefits. Anybody that's in crypto and blockchain understand why you use crypto, right? It's faster, it's easier, it's frictionless, etc. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to use crypto in traditional investment instruments, right? It's virtually impossible. Not with NFTs, right? That's just one example. Take another one, legal contracts. If anybody has ever tried to raise capital or do anything in business with legal contracts, what does it involve? Back and forth, even DocuSign is back and forth, constant negotiation. There's tons of friction in legal contracts. There's tons of friction with lawyers involved. You need lawyers, right? But there's a lot of friction. What if you simply make the legal process part of the minting process? Now, what you've done very powerfully is you've put the power in the hand of the company raising money to say, here's our terms, here's what we're looking to raise, here's what it costs, mint or don't mint, right? It doesn't solve every investment situation, but it does make a huge leap into the future, especially seed capital, early financing, people wanting to raise, friends and family raises, et cetera, to be able to do it very simply. We proved that with our system. We came out of the gate in the first 30 days and said, we have to do it first. And that's what we did. We did some of our pre-seed fundraising actually using our own system.
And Brian or Kyle, how does fractional equity work?
Go ahead, Kyle. I'll let you take that.
Yeah, sure. So, how how does it work? Equity is already fractionalized, like, in shares. And by quantifying them and wrapping them in a digital container of an NFT is, what we're doing. And we're also looking at beyond equity too, and looking at revenue streams as well. Because now that we have digital programmable money, we can actually tokenize revenue streams. You've probably seen like a Shark's Tank before, where like Kevin O'Leary is famous for like cutting these deals where he'll take a percentage of every sale, or take like, a royalty in that means. Well, we've actually kind of built a platform that enables you to create, like, tokenize your revenue stream. Let's say you make 1,000 tokens out of your revenue stream, and every token represents 0.1% of the revenue, and your company could hold 90% of those tokens, but then you sell 10% of those tokens. And then when revenue comes in, and now that we're in digital programmable money, as soon as the revenue comes in, it can be moved into a smart contract that gets split across all the token holders. So by buying, by investing, this is a security. By investing in that security, you're then going to receive future payouts on it. And then ultimately that token that is the bearer of these yields from revenue will have value in and of itself, and in due time, a secondary market can emerge for the trading of those, to accomplish that. And the same goes for equity. And instead of like revenue distributions, you can also do profit distributions. And when you're holding on to an NFT that represents either revenue or equity in your wallet, it knows where to send the payments to. So we can facilitate, this payment settlement, which frankly is a nightmare. And like in the legacy systems, is very challenging. In the new system, it's very simple. So this is like one of the great opportunities that we see here. And there's and just to answer Daniel's question too, companies have been raising capital by issuing utility tokens. They've been raising capitals by issuing memberships for NFTs. Gary Vee has done a great job of issuing utility access tokens. Those are all part of them. For founders out there and innovators out there, there's you got so many different options when you want to go look at capital formation. And what our purpose is to create a new tool set as well to leverage revenue streams and equity streams, as well as being able to issue membership tokens utilizing NFTs in a really simple flow. And with the security NFTs, all the investors are KYC'd too, because when you're selling securities, you need to know who your investors are. So that's like critical to this whole platform too. It's not an anon platform. It's a privacy protected platform, but it also there is verification of the platform users.
And Kate, if I could just add this one thing too, anybody that wants to own equity in a company, right? It's a promise that you own some percentage or a number of shares in that particular company, which comes down to a document, a legal agreement, right? Something like that, a proof of ownership. Well, what does blockchain do? It provides proof of ownership, right? And what better way to do this through an NFT structure? And that's something very important to understand, is that, again, we're not just replacing everything that exists. We're taking what already exists, which is your equity promise, and we're tokenizing it, and we're making it better and attaching those contracts to the NFT.
And Brian, question, I love how you emphasize the word compliant. What are some of the steps that you guys are doing to make sure you guys are compliant in the US? Because I know a lot of these projects are getting in trouble the last few months.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anybody that's getting in trouble is typically on the extreme side, right, of probably doing a blatant securities violation. First step is, try your very best in business to always do the right thing, right? That's just a principle, right? And so don't try to ever operate in gray areas, ever, under any circumstance, especially when it comes to this stuff. So what we chose to do is we offer a software as a service platform, a SaaS model. And we give a SaaS software platform to companies to issue their own securities, their own NFT securities. We don't issue those. It's not like we're holding their securities and then issuing those or selling them for them. We give them a platform to actually create those and issue those to their accredited investors. We do not advertise for them. We do not raise for them. We give them the power in the tool set and the software to go out and do this with the power of the blockchain. And then the other part of it is we ensure the process of fundraising is compliant using technology. Things like checking whether they're an accredited investor. That's important. Kyle mentioned checking KYC. That's important. So compliance comes in the form of process as well as the technology.
Dan?
Yeah, no, I think that's great to hear, because I don't think we heard a lot about compliance. And everyone last year was like decentralized, democratized, like do whatever and throw it out there and throw it to the wind. But now I think we're seeing people want to make this something long term and something sustainable, as well as I think your approach is you're really going to appease the the accredited investor, who is probably more cautious and not going to necessarily invest in things that don't have something that looks more legitimized. So do you see this? And I know your SaaS helps facilitate, but do you see this in the future replacing things like the reg, I think, is it Reg B or Reg A, I'm not sure, which is the new crowdfunding that they've been doing for a few years, and where anyone can invest like $100 or $200 or whatever it is. It makes the everyday person the ability to invest. Do you see this being like not necessarily a replacement, but an add-on to that?
So crowdfunding, Reg CF basically is a very specific way to sell an opportunity to retail investors, right? And you can raise a lot of money. There's not a ton of success cases out there of companies of huge magnitude starting out with crowdfunding, right? They're out there, right? Regulation D, Reg D, has become a very powerful tool for small business to raise up to $10 million in a 12-month period, but it's private placement, right? So really anything besides crowdfunding is private, right? Unless you're going and IPOing and offering a public security. So there's tons of opportunity to do all of it, right? We're starting with small business, Regulation D type focused offerings, which is most small businesses, most startups, right? And ensuring that they've got a tool to be able to help them do this with the blockchain. But there's absolutely opportunity to be able to participate in all the other pieces that are there, which have their place. I think that's the key, is that everything has its place. Kyle, if you want to comment any more on that.
I mean, I would say like we are moving towards, and I think, over time, we're going to see the accreditor investor kind of framework, become more inclusive towards everyone, because, you can go buy lottery tickets. You can spend all your money on lottery tickets and be advertised lottery tickets, like, on a hope of expected output, but you can't invest a small amount in your friend's business because you really believe in them and support them. I think this technology has the ability to open it up and democratize that. Additionally, I think the word accredited investor, there's a lot of energy around that. There's a very clear definition, and it's a checklist that one can go through. And I think a lot of people would be surprised to find out they actually represent being an accredited investor. I think it's $200,000 a year. You have $2 million worth of wealth, or like two of the criteria in order to meet it. And by meeting that, you can then kind of participate, in these realms. And the other thing is, these offerings really are private too. These are not public offerings. This is not like a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding campaign. It's not like an NFT drop that's just, okay, send money to this address and you'll get your token immediately, or an ICO that was send ETH to this address and you'll get some tokens here, and we're not going to know anything about you. Yeah, those are the projects that scammers get attracted to and rug pull investors on, and B, those are the ones that the regulators, after being success, they'll come after, looking for payment for not following the guidelines properly in the form of a fine.
Dan?
Yeah, no, it's really amazing, like you mentioned, about how this can give opportunity to people all around the world. And I think we're seeing, and there's been a lot of talks because a lot of, small percentage of funding really goes to more a diverse crowd, is more inclusive. And I think traditional investing in the past has been very exclusive. Who do you know? Who you're friends with? Going to a certain type of person that looks a certain way. So how do you see with Web3 in general, not just Raze, but how do you see funding going in the future to where we can have, more diversity in funding around maybe not just the US, but the world?
I mean, I love
go ahead, Kyle.
I like the idea of when you think about Shark's Tank, it's like they're pitching to this audience of 5 people, and they don't necessarily the product doesn't necessarily resonate with those 5 people. You may have a business that's cat crafts for cat lovers. It targets a very specific niche. There's some cat lovers out there that would want to support that, and this is the opportunity in open access and radical inclusivity. You can have an invitation or a non-public, a barrier to make sure people are aware of what they're doing, but you can still leverage this platform to create the situation, the environment to be able to receive funding from different communities of like-minded people who want to see you succeed and support, because there are more investors now than there have ever been in the history of humanity. There's more money, there's more resources out there than there's ever been in the history of humanity. There's more people who are willing to engage on projects too. And that's the other thing about tokenized securities, just in general, is that you can use these as compensation tools for developing organizational structures. So as opposed to having necessarily option agreements or advisor agreements, you can actually have utilized tokens and drip tokens out towards people who are participating and being engaged within the projects. And instead of being an employee and trusting in the book, you will be able to look on OpenSea or look on Etherscan to be able to verify your contract, your position, and the organizational structure as well.
Kyle, I know.
Yeah, and I'd say part of the future outside of even. Oh.
No, go ahead, Kyle. Brian, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd say part of the future, I think, also involves helping people understand what the technology of blockchain in general can do, right? And tokenization can do. Once people understand that, we're going to see an explosion of innovation, right? There's going to be lots of people. We hope one day we're not the only ones. We know we're not going to be, right? And there's going to be tons of innovation that pops up, just to kind of further answer that question.
Dan?
Yeah, no, it's I am curious to see, and I can't wait, how more people talk all the time like mass adoption, like how many more people can get in and they start seeing it, and as it continues to pick up. I'm sure, Kyle, you've seen this. It seems like the crypto is it's less of an investment and more of a community. And I think we saw that with NFTs. It was, I think, less people looking for an investment, more people looking for a community of like-minded people. And so where do you think, and maybe I could be wrong, I'm just,
it's all good.
Just my view of what's happening and pulse of the markets. But where do you see this becoming something that, really expands out instead of being, like you mentioned, 10% or less or 20% or less? Or where does this get to 50% of people know about it, have a wallet, are engaged in it?
I mean, honestly, I think the key is just people having their light bulb moments, realizing, what it can do and using it. The best way to understand how Bitcoin, how crypto works is by getting a wallet and receiving some and sending some and be like, oh, okay, that was interesting, and going through that whole process. And the same thing with NFTs. And I think as well, within the business community, for example, MetaTalks, there's an opportunity for, say, a membership token, or if you had revenue streams that were coming in from sponsors or donations, codifying that revenue stream and fractionalizing it into, say, 100 tokens and offering that. And that can be a way for you to raise some capital to take this project to that next level. Or if you're like, we're going to build a big enterprise and this is going to be an equity play, you could do that too. They actually like, testing and creating and using this. And I think as more and more projects start going out to their communities, and we're seeing this happen a lot right now. There's a lot of big brands, there's a lot of big artists that are all starting to issue NFT projects. The number of downloads that MetaMask is getting kind of increases every single day. Like the proliferation is growing. You can't uninvent gunpowder. You can't uninvent blockchain distributed ledger technology. So it's just a matter of like, that critical mass hitting, and then like this tipping point, or we're seeing this inflection point, and it feels like we're getting really close to like, this mega inflection point. And I'm confident and feel at peace knowing that, exactly where we are right now is great. Even in this bear market, it's like, the bear markets versus the bull markets, having been in this space a long time, the bear markets is when things get built. Like, the bears are for building, the bulls are for bullshit. And like, there's so much mania and so much manic behavior when prices hitting all-time highs, and like all the media, and it's like, all of a sudden the egos come out like, in full force. And but now we're in these periods of kind of contraction. It's like, it kind of weeds out a lot of the fake, the phonies. And for us, it's like,
I would say look at the history of technology, right? I was getting out of college when the .com era was starting to pop, and just go look at what history does, right? Just especially in tech, what happened, right? Very few, if anyone, had an email address. Now today, you can't survive in business without an email address, a LinkedIn handle, a Twitter handle, right? And go on and on and on, right? So that's what's going to happen with blockchain, right? And when NFT identities and NFT ticketing and NFT securities and blah, 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 go down the list. Doesn't have to be NFTs, tokens, right? Crypto payments for everyday use, whatever chain it is, right? You can debate that all day long, right? When that begins to make people's lives easier and better, because that's what we all want. We just want things to be simpler, right? That's when you're going to see mass adoption.
All right. So what are some of the qualifications for anyone who wants to get involved with the Raze? What do you guys look for? I know this is private, right?
Well, honestly, we're looking right now for pilot clients. We've actually already got our first 5, and that's all we wanted in our first 90 days. And then our next 30 days, we're going to support those guys to get their launch. Between now and the next 90 days to 120 days, end of year, we're looking for 25 total. We're very specific about what we want to do and what we want to support and make those companies successful. And we're also launching our own round, our new round, actually. So we're looking for accredited investors ourselves that want to own actually an equity token in our company. And so we're releasing 40 equity tokens actually privately to accredited investors here in a week. And those are actually going to be, they're not even technically equity tokens. If you know the instrument safe agreement, we're actually tokenizing a safe agreement, which is very unique and powerful through an NFT. And that's going to go live actually here in a week or so. And then what we're also continuing to offer to accredited investors is revenue share tokens. And you own a 0.025% ownership rights in our future platform revenue when you own one NFT in our ecosystem. So investors, accredited investors, can actually continue to get involved by either owning a share of our revenue or a share of our equity. And you can get in touch with us at Raze.Finance, and we love to talk.
Yeah, and I want to hear more about that, just because I've seen this with the first time I saw this last year was music. I'm sure you saw that, right? Where you could own percentage, and I just saw recently a few different artists that are releasing, like famous artists, doing their own label, basically raising money, through giving out a percentage of future revenue from sales of their album or songs. I don't know 100% how it works, but I thought it was a fascinating model around what you were saying. So
I mean, it's amazing. Like, Daniel, think about like Uber or Airbnb. Had you had the opportunity, like they charge a 20% fee effectively. Like what if they took 10% of their fee back in the early days and created a token pool that represented, that revenue source. And as soon as the revenue comes in, it goes into the distribution pool. Like, I think Airbnb or Uber did like $14 billion last quarter, like in revenue. It's an unbelievable amount. Like based on our numbers, like we do $1 billion in revenue, and every single token will have paid out $250,000 to each of the token holders, and we're selling them for 1 ETH right now. And like this is the same model that if you have a very expected flow, and as a SaaS platform, we know that where we're making revenue from, we're going to make revenue from platform fees, from processing fees for doing the distributions, and from selling our own NFTs too. So we're going to have our own kind of membership token for investors to be able to come and be part of the club, to be able to get special access to offerings from entrepreneurs looking to engage with the Raze investor community.
Yeah, and Daniel, the real key too, and a lot of these that you're seeing is there's a big difference in buying a membership token and being part of the membership, right? And receiving some sort of benefit as long as it's not a return. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? That's huge. That's going to be explosive over the next several years. Membership platforms everywhere. As Kyle said, Gary Vee started to make that really popular with some of his projects. But there's a very big difference in saying you get to participate as a passive investor in the success of our company. That's a key difference. And so it's the difference between investing and participating as a member. And you can do both. You can do both with our platform, but you can do both in the industry as well. You just have to know the difference.
Got it. So does the software then disperse out? Is it actual? And by the way, Kyle, I like your things that pop up.
Your matrix right there.
Oh,
yeah,
whoa!
The Raze revenue token.
Matrix.
It's just going to feed.
Oh, wow, I like that. I saw a dog there earlier, I think. So I'm curious, is it actually like do these? Oh, there you go. Is that Shiba Inu?
That's the Doge.
Dogecoin. So
that's the Doge.
Does it actually disperse like actual money to people? Like as this goes, if somebody wants to do this for their community, or is it actual money, or is it like crypto? Is it current? Like what? Well, actually
if you're buying into if you're a company and you want to raise capital, right, and you're issuing, let's say, equity, all the same rules apply, right? You either are going to do a dividend one day, or you're going to have an event, right? A sale, another round, et cetera. And investors are going to be paid out the same way, but they can be paid out through crypto and through the distributions of the NFT. But the more probably relevant question that you're asking is if they have a revenue share token, right? How do they get paid? What we do is we give people the ability to claim the revenue, right? To go in there and actually a claiming process with their NFT in their wallet, monthly, quarterly, whatever the company dictates that their payment schedule is going to be. So if the company owes $100,000 of a revenue share that month to their investors, they're going to put that into a wallet. Smart contract is going to pay that out automatically, and they're going to go claim that from their actual NFT ownership.
Right, and the currency of it is defined by the project. So, like it Correct. Could like will likely be paying out in Ether, or in a stable coin. So if and like it could be an ERC20, but again, the platform is chain agnostic. Like we support any EVM, so we can support like a lower fee stable coin solution, like a Polygon implementation of Matic or Tether. But ultimately, we're not making Venmo payments out right. to everybody. It's utilizing
Good
crypto.
Point.
Yeah. All right. So my question to you is: I know you guys are focusing on NFT. Are you guys going to be open to supporting VR project or any outside of the NFT world, or this is just NFT as of now?
100%. If you got any project that's raising, whether it's a for-profit or even a not-for-profit, there is a play, there is a strategy to utilize non-fungible tokens, membership tokens, revenue tokens, or equity tokens for the project just because we are like, a Web3 focused enterprise, leveraging decentralized technology, that doesn't mean we're only serving that industry. From real estate to film financing to startup funding to like community projects, impact projects, all are just basic, governance organizational structures, and the technology stack that we're building can support them all. And we're absolutely looking, and this is what Brian mentioned, we got 5 projects coming right out the gates. One of them's a real estate, one of them's a film, one of them's a tech platform.
Yeah.
So we're looking at these different ones, and as we build out these initial these initial kind of, we'll say, pilots or first clients, we're going to be very much hand holding and working very closely with them to build and to iterate and to improve the project, so that by this time next year, you'll be able to go as a founder or an entrepreneur to Raze.Finance and be able to set up your deal as if it was a Kickstarter and submit your application to be live. We are going to have a vetting process, or not a vetting, but an approval process, because the nature of the platform could be abused, and we may need to assure the integrity of it and make sure that bad actors don't utilize this tech to scam people.
Yeah, and let me say this, the platform really at the end of the day is built for the mass market, right? We're just waiting for small business and startups to catch up with the adoption of this tech, right? That's really the key. As crypto, as blockchain is widely adopted, so will the idea of being able to fundraise this way.
Awesome. Dan?
No, amazing. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So why don't you all, is that another one? Is that your
That's the equity token.
Kyle lives to entertain.
Nice.
So this is like, it's a blue ocean. It's really calm. It's like the equity is just like, I'm going to get in, I'm going to be patient, versus like the revenue token that's like, all right, let's go.
We should invite them at the for the Philippine Blockchain Week. We'll be curating the content there for the whole week.
Oh, terrific. Well, I will also say that our one film project is really unique towards the film and blockchain, because it is going to be one take on answering the greatest question in Bitcoin.
There you go. Good.
Which is a secret.
That's
here.
a teaser right there, Kyle.
Right? Like, how do you do that, Kyle? Thank you. So Brian, Kyle, thank you both for today. It's been great. Really amazing for the audience to learn something new. So we always appreciate that. And you kept it, simplified enough for people to really understand, no matter what level they're at. But share one more time, how can they find you? How can they find the website?
Raze.Finance.
Yeah, Raze.Finance. And then you can email us at info@Raze.Finance as well. And, full disclosure, we purposely have not been on social media. We've been focused on building a business. We're launching that in our next phase here. And the nature of what we're doing, making sure that we get our messaging right. So we're going to go heavy on that going into Q4, but hit our website. We'd love to hear from you.
And additionally, like, we're both on LinkedIn too. Feel free to connect, send a message.
Absolutely.
If you're listening and this project resonates with you, you are invited to connect, to participate, in some form or fashion. We welcome that connection and that co-creation, because we recognize this is a tool for other innovators and creators to leverage, to build and realize their dreams with. And we want to support you in realizing your dreams and, becoming independently abundant, wealthy, and prosperous.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.